Hey there, welcome to another episode of Behind the Scenes for Becoming Retail, where we take an insider's view into the people driving digital transformation throughout retail. And, we've all been through this pandemic and we've used the word unprecedented, probably an unprecedented amount of times. But really, when you come down to it, we've not experienced, I know for me anyways, for that matter, anything the magnitude like we've ever seen before. But if you think about retail and the industry, we're no stranger to crisis, whether that's natural disasters or recessions. And so we want to take the opportunity to understand amidst crisis and opportunity, how do leaders emerge and use their leadership skills to really rally and create confidence around the teams that they're leading. So we talked to executives not only via interviews, but surveyed more than 500 globally to understand what are the most important attributes and skills amidst the pandemic for retail leaders. So, hey, Michelle, good to see you as always. You want to talk a little bit about what we saw from the survey results?
Definitely. It was really interesting, our survey results. 41% of respondents said that communication was the most important leadership skill in times of crisis. And the second one was vision. So 25% said vision was an important leadership skill. And you can really see how those two fit together, right? You need to know where you're going and how you get out from underneath the crisis. And you need to be able to communicate that really well to all of your stakeholders. So I think, what we've seen and heard from is that people started sending out weekly emails, maybe daily emails. Teams are meeting more frequently to make these decisions on how they were going to navigate the crisis. So those were, obviously two standout skills that our respondents highlighted. But the other three are also important: optimism, empathy, inspirational, right? It all kind of comes down to a positive attitude to help inspire and motivate everyone during a very difficult time.
Yeah, that's right. A positive attitude and a genuine attitude. But communications is really interesting. And I ran large scale transformation initiatives at retailers at my time leading retail strategy at IBM. And communication always rose to the top in terms of importance. And we saw that, didn't we, Michelle, at Salesforce over the last 12 months. We put together our pandemic operating model, and communication and visibility and transparency was one of the key pillars there. And that was important as an employee to understand from the top where the vision is, and where in some cases we might be charting different courses given the unprecedented time. What comes to mind to me along these topics is a conversation I had with Dana Schwartz. She's the SVP of Global Direct to Consumer at Keen. And, the way she thinks about her leadership style is about humility and objectivity. And for her, what the crisis taught was to really lean into these principles even more than she has just on a daily basis. It was so critical, so important to her to have humility and empathy for her team as they rush to pivot, as we've talked about before in this series, become really scrappy and really set aggressive goals. She worked closely with her team, communicated, showed humility, showed empathy. So Michelle, anything else come to mind for you as we think about the leadership skills required amidst the pandemic?
Definitely. Yeah. Dana is a great retail leader, and I highly recommend checking out her full interview on our YouTube channel. But another conversation you had really stood out to me too, which is when you spoke to Eileen Rizzo, who is the CIO at Ashley Stewart. Her sort of take on the crisis with it, she really emphasized positivity. She really needed to keep her team motivated and moving forward in a great time of crisis. So I learned a lot from her. And the other thing that she really highlighted was, she always leads based on what the consumer need was. And so she focused her vision on what the consumer needed in this time of crisis. And obviously one of the key things was safety when shopping. So she was able to sort of rally her team around that consumer need for safety and roll out a lot of different new protocols and projects that revolved around that consumer need. So that marriage of her vision for where that IT team needed to go, along with her need to have a positive attitude for all of our team members to sort of rally around really struck me as important and a great example of leadership.
Yeah, positivity for me, Michelle, is so important. My father growing up, anytime and which was many, didn't want to get out of bed and get to school throughout my school days, he would always start the morning by saying, you got to have a PMA, a positive mental attitude. So that really strikes a chord with me in terms of what you heard and what you saw in your conversations as well. So, hey, Michelle, as always, thank you for sharing your insights, your inspiration, what you're learning as we continue our path and journey to becoming retail.